What is up?
Hey,
It's another episode of the Hoof Podcast Live. I am your freaking host, Sterling. Got my guy Anthony on the other side. What's good, man? How you doing?
Good. Getting closer and closer to that draft day, man. Getting all the work in, getting more excited as the days get closer, as I start to learn, more guys at different positions on the board and deeper into the draft. It becomes more exciting and more, the anticipation is just building. We missed you last week on the show, but, it was a good conversation we had then too, back and forth about O-line, a little bit of D-line. Today, hitting it up too. I'm excited, man. One day closer.
Yeah, man. So today we're going to be talking about running backs. I know that's your favorite trigger word.
It is.
Days,
yes.
So yeah, tight ends and wide receivers. So we're going to talk about, we're going to evaluate the room. We're going to look at what the Bills currently offer in the room and kind of look at, what's needed. And, if the Bills were to take a peek at a guy, if they were to select one in certain rounds, who might they be looking at as targets? The glory of the draft is you never know. And with Brandon Beane and this regime, they kind of keep everything tight-lipped. So you don't know what the hell's going on, but it's so much fun to speculate. It's so much fun to talk about it and to get into it. So the draft, like you said, man, the draft is next week. Like it is next week. So this time next week, it would be next Tuesday. The draft is on Thursday, man. Like,
yeah. One more
here.
Show, and then we're draft coverage live, baby.
Yeah, dude.
Awesome.
It's gonna be wild. So I'm drinking beer tonight.
I was gonna say, taking a sip there.
I'm taking a little
sip took you on that one. I don't know.
Yeah, man. Yeah. Not. It wasn't like a hard week or a hard day at work or anything, but sometimes it's just nice to have a little beer. You know what I'm saying? But with that being said, let's get into this thing. So, the Bills never get a number one pick. Okay. I mean, it just doesn't happen. I think the last number one pick the Bills had was Bruce Smith, right? So we don't ever get to really, and then the year that Cam Newton and Von Miller were drafted, that's when we got to look at the top prospects, right? The top three guys.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, we've been perfectly good at being mediocre, right? And recently, the last 4 or 5 years, we've had the privilege of being a household name or a team knows what success looks like, knows what it feels like. So we don't really get to talk about and evaluate the top talents in the draft. So, and you got to understand, like, draft season, there's a bunch of smoke that comes out. Like there's a bunch of BS. Everybody knows what each team's doing, and you got agents talking, you got people, within these organizations leaking out information, whether it's incorrect or correct. You just see a lot of news, a lot of fake news, right? A lot of things out there. And so
everybody has their own agenda. That's what's important to remember at draft time, right? Like you said, the agents are trying to do their job. The players are trying to do their job, saying, yeah, I'm worthy of this. Get that hype going, and the teams are doing their job, saying, oh, yeah, we are thinking about taking a running back in round one so that other teams might do it ahead of them or whatever,
Look, you're jumping to that running back thing.
I know, right? It's coming up. I know it is. But, quarterback is always one that comes to mind, right? Oh, if they're going to take the quarterback, then you have to jump that team, whatever team might be taking the quarterback, to get the guy you want if you're looking at quarterback. Always it's quarterbacks. This draft class, not so much, or at least not around the Buffalo Bills, so we're not talking about it as much. But,
right.
Yeah. It's usually quarterback that dictates everything in terms of the draft. But this year, there's so many other positions, especially at the top. I don't know what's going to happen at the top.
Well, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you, see, this is the kind of stuff that I enjoy because, this year I get to talk about Aidan Hutchinson because he's going to be the first guy taken off the board. Okay. Jacksonville will get their defensive end, and it's going to be Aidan Hutchinson. This is a Michigan guy. So you already know I'm excited about him. Been watching him for a few years, man. And, he burst on the scene. Like he was a very highly touted recruit coming out of high school. And, there were questions whether he would reach that potential. But before he even stepped foot on campus, there was rumors about like this kid's special. His dad played football in the NFL. he's got a high motor, great football character. Man, he's a freak athlete. And he, in terms of, pass rush acumen, he could do it all. I mean, he could really do it all. He doesn't have many areas of improvement that he needs to do. And it's a no-brainer. Now, there's some out there that say Kayvon Thibodeau is a better prospect, right? But
yeah, there's
for my
been a lot of
money,
smoke right this week about who are the Jaguars considering at one.
Evan Neal is a guy that has been talked about going number 1 overall offensive tackle. But at the end of the day, man, I really do think that you have Josh Allen, that defensive end. You throw Aidan Hutchinson over there, and all of a sudden, man, you got a pretty stout defensive line. And we know what the Jacksonville Jaguars defensive line could do firsthand to what they did to the Bills offensive line last year. What a terrible game. But, they got some guys on that defensive line, man. So you added Aidan Hutchinson to that equation. Ooh. And, he's a bookend defensive end for the next 10 to 12, 15 years. I mean, I don't think there's a better player in this draft than Aidan Hutchinson.
Yes, I mean, I tend to agree that I think Aidan Hutchinson is the pick that makes the most sense. But the Jaguars haven't always been known for doing the thing that makes the most sense, are they? Granted, this is now a new regime in Jacksonville. They have so much good talent there. They always have. But the question is, will they consider other options? A tackle is not a bad idea. You got to protect your number 1 overall pick from last year and put him in a situation where now you can actually see his potential, or at least his development in year 2 compared to year 1, which did not go great for him. So taking a tackle would not be a bad move by any means, but you're passing on who is probably the consensus best player in the draft in Hutchinson at a premium position. Again, edge, right? That's always one pass rusher. You're always going to, see those guys go early in the draft, talent-wise, because, it's a valuable position in the NFL. Yeah, but it's a good question to ask. Here we are a week away, and there's not, these are the top 5 guys no matter what. It's great. It's fun.
So according to Walter Football, there are reports that the Jaguars are conducting private workouts with Trayvon Walker, defensive end out of Georgia, and considering him at number 1 as well. So
wow.
I think that's smoke. Listen, if you take Trayvon Walker, which he's a freak, the guy, he's a baller. I just don't think he has everything in the shed that Aidan Hutchinson does. But if you take Trayvon Walker at number 1, you better be damn sure that this guy is going to come in and just. I think Aidan Hutchinson is a safe pick. I think he gives you, you know what I'm saying? So if you go in there, you take Trayvon Walker, it's kind of like, when the Raiders took Cleveland Farrell, like at 4, you're like, that's how we got Ed Oliver, because they took him at 4, right? And so Ed Oliver kind of went down the board, but you're like, what? Like, what are you doing? Like, it's one of those kind of moves. So if the Jaguars do this, man, I just say the ghost of Urban Meyer lives on, man, because that's a very Urban move, man.
I mean, the only thing that would indicate to me that they found something that was a red flag with Hutchinson, meaning either an injury concern or a personal life thing, something that they were like, nope, he's going to be suspended, or somebody who's up in danger. Now, I haven't heard anything like that around Hutchinson, so I don't see why that would be the case. If they straight up said, no, we just like this guy over Hutchinson, whoever the guy may be, then it's going to be a question. If we're talking the same position, edge, again, you can make the argument that, okay, we have our young quarterback, tackle is what is most important to us, so that's why we picked a tackle over an edge. Okay, I'm fine with that explanation. I think that's reasonable. Or even if they were in desperate need of like a cornerback, but they're not really. I mean, I think those are the only 2 positions they can consider as edge and offensive tackle, and from there we'll see what happens. Or trade, but apparently nobody's interested in that number 1 overall pick this year because the value obviously of what it takes to move up to number 1, even if you're number 3 or something, it's an extreme value to move up to the number 1 overall pick. Even if they were to sell low this year, I think they would still be looking for a lot in return and still want one of those top 5 picks in order to get the guy they're looking at. If perhaps they like Walker more than Hutchinson, they could trade down, but you still need to be in the top 5. So it's not a lot of options.
Right. And think about Aidan Hutchinson. He shows up when it matters most too. Now I know, you can look at Georgia. The Wolverines weren't ready to play Georgia. I mean, SEC to Big Ten is not even close right now. And because I know somebody in the comments said made a comment about getting owned by Georgia, and like whatever. Everybody's not going to have their best game all the time, but man, what Aidan Hutchinson was able to do this season, he set the Michigan sack record, for most sacks in the season. He had 15 pressures against Ohio State, 3 sacks. I mean, I played and watched that game back like 4 times because Michigan has not beaten Ohio State in years, so it was a big deal. But Aidan Hutchinson's a baller, man, and he showed out quite frequently for the Wolverines, along with David Ojabo. We might get into him at some point, but who I would love the Bills to take at 25, even though he's injured. But let's just chill with the Michigan slander. Those are my guys, man. Those are my guys. Let's go with so every single year, okay? Every single year, we all have our draft crushes, guys that we love, guys that you gotta have or that you just want for your team, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And last year for me, who was my draft crush last year? Who was it?
I don't remember.
What?
I know mine. I know a couple of mine that have been over the years.
I liked a lot of guys.
Jerry Jeudy was one of my favorite players in that draft, and I think he's still going to be, especially this year now with finally getting a quarterback like Russell Wilson. Jerry Jeudy is a guy that I still. Last year, I joked about Brevin Jordan, right? Because not joked. I sincerely wanted them to draft him, but it's not like I wanted them to draft him in round 1. I knew he was a round 4 kind of guy, and when it got to that time, I'm like,
right.
This is when you can take him. He's a developmental guy, but I like his skill set and what he could become. So Brevin Jordan was one of my draft crushes. But when we were talking higher picks, Jerry Jeudy was definitely one for me. Ed Oliver was the one that we actually got that I was like, this is absolutely the guy I want for our team. Can he please fall to 9 where we can take him? I don't know if he gets past, the teams ahead of us. But I'm so glad he did, because that obviously has worked out pretty well and continues to grow in the right direction. As we hope. Those are some of the guys that come to mind for me.
Okay,
in the past.
The year before that was Henry Ruggs. And
the
shit
speed,
show that turned into.
Well,
I was
now
all
we
about
do.
Henry Ruggs.
But the speed and the dynamic ability, you were excited about, right? Like
I was
little
excited
did you know
about
what
Henry
would happen
Ruggs.
years later.
Right. But whatever. And then last year, I was all about the running back. I wanted Etienne or Najee Harris.
Garbage.
Look, I know you're gonna say. I knew you're gonna start hating with the slander.
Yeah.
I wanted a running back round 1, and I'm unapologetic about it, and I don't care what the masses think. But I still think it is a need today. Now, I don't think they're going to take a running back round 1. I don't think so. But if they do, I'll be happy because I love my running backs. And to be particular, I think Kenneth Walker is running back.
Well, we've got a lot to talk about with the running backs. But do you have a draft crush this year? That is the question, right? I know so far of the guys I've watched film on, the one that has impressed me the most that I love is Nakobe Dean. He's one where
you're a Nakobe Dean guy.
It's not like I'm saying I want the Bills to draft him, but when I watched his film, we talked about this when Bruce was on the show. I just said, like, to me, you watch him play and you say, this is a football player. I want this guy on my team. He's at it. He's 100% energy. He knows what he's doing. He's got the brains. He's got the skill sets. He doesn't have the longest arms or the biggest size, but man, is he a football player. And I definitely love the guy. And when it comes to that first round or thinking about who I want the Bills to get, that has kind of shifted this year. I don't know that there's one player. And obviously I've talked about Romeo Dubes as well. Somebody who's that I like. We will talk about wide receivers today too. He's a later round guy that I'm excited about. Again, this isn't somebody I'm like, oh, the Bills should take him earlier than he should go, but I would love for him to be a Bill, and whatever team he goes to, I think I'll definitely, follow him on for sure.
So I would say this year, my draft crush. Okay. Jamison Williams to me is he's that dude for me.
Oh,
And I love skill position players. If
Mhm,
you know this, right? Been talking draft for years, but Jamison Williams, man, is that dude. He's special. That dude's special, man. Just I like the way he approaches the game. Like he plays like he doesn't give two F's ever. He just doesn't care.
oh yeah,
Like he shows
fun to
up on
watch.
special teams.
Fun to watch.
He
Yeah,
gives you his all every single snap. You don't see like the film we're watching, you never see him take snaps off. Like the dude is always, he's just like he is the Ohio State guy. So it's hard for me, but it's like, man, went to Alabama, hanging out with Saban and those guys, and he just blew up on the scene. I mean, just think about this. Ohio State at one point had Jamison Williams, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave, Jackson, Nigbus, that dude.
How did they not win a
bro
champion? Yeah.
Justin Fields and that, I mean, dude, CJ Stroud. I mean, these dudes, they've been loaded. But Jamison Williams, man, is that guy. He would be so good in a Bills offense. Just think about Jamison Williams on one side.
Oh my God, that is ridiculously exciting.
Stephon Diggs on the other side, right? And then you got Dawson Knox and Jamison Crowder, Gabe Davis. Like, bro, like there is just a plethora of weapons. Like, do you even have to run the ball ever? Like, that offense will be so impressive. But the reality is, he's probably he's probably top 10, top 15 at the latest. I would assume.
Yeah. So I don't know.
I really do think the Jets
probably out of range for us. Yeah, they could go to the Jets.
Absolutely.
Worst case scenario, I don't want to see him go to the Chiefs. If the Chiefs use their 2 picks to trade up, if he starts to fall in a range where they can get him, that would be worst case scenario. I don't want to see him go to the Chiefs because, he is a very, very dynamic player, and he's going to be great wherever he goes. Other names that from previous years that Eric reminded me of here, Kwity Paye. Obviously, you were biased on that one, but that was one that you loved.
And was he not good?
Was he not good? No, I'm not saying he's not, but and Kyle Pitts, that was one we were all high on, I think, but certainly a guy that we knew was going to go pretty high and was out of range for the Bills, but was the player that you fell in love with kind of in the most. But Dean as a safety, nah, I don't think so. He's too dynamic of stopping the run and all that. I don't want to see him as a safety. I think he's definitely a linebacker. You could play him in that third linebacker, nickel, whatever you want to call that, in the Bills defense role. I think that would suit him for sure.
And you're right. And Kwity Paye, was I didn't think he'd last to go to the Bills, right? But I love Kwity Paye.
Yeah.
And this year, another Michigan guy, that's not Aidan Hutchinson, is Daxton Hill. Like, I think Daxton Hill is.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a guy
there are some mocks with him going to the Bills, and that's a reasonable choice, I think. Yeah.
This is a dude that grew up in Oklahoma. He's always been a baller. He wants to be a doctor. Like this dude is like, when you talk about character and work ethic, Daxton Hill is that guy. Mm-hmm. And what he's able to do on the field, man, he played, corner in the slot. He plays safety. He's got, in my opinion, he's got good ball skills. Michigan really hadn't had it together till last year in terms of defense, with Don Brown kind of screwing everything up. Till last year with Mike McDonald from the Ravens. Yeah. This is when prior to that, he still balled out. So Daxton Hill is another draft crush. Brandon Beane does not draft Michigan guys. So they do not even bring him in for tryouts, it seems. They don't even look at him at all. So I've kind of got over Brandon Beane is very much an ACC guy. So whatever, in the AAC. So, he ain't messing with no Michigan dudes. That's for sure. It's not happening.
And it's nice to have a draft crush. When I started doing the show with you guys, that was really the first time I jumped into analyzing a whole bunch of guys for the draft, and really over the last 2 years, analyzing everybody. Like Jalen Waddle last year was my favorite receiver in the draft, more than what's his name? Chase. So I liked him over Jamar Chase. I just loved him again. And still now I find myself sort of rooting for these players. You feel bad for a guy who's got Tua throwing to him versus Joe Burrow. It's tough to analyze that just yet, but the long-term trajectory of their career, it's fun to say, yeah, that was the guy I liked. Or Brevin Jordan, when he becomes a tight end 1 in the league, and be like, hey, that was the guy I wanted the Bills to get.
Yeah.
It's just fun to look back at. But we got a lot to talk about this year too, right?
We do. So let's, with that being said, wide receiver, with the most receptions, not. So we're going to talk about the wide receiver room. The premise of tonight's show is to, evaluate the room. What can the Bills do? What are some targets? All right. So we get, Stephon Diggs. We know he's the alpha guy in the room, in the wide receiver room. Okay. Last year we had Emmanuel Sanders, Gabe Davis. Who else do we have in there? Isaiah McKenzie. These kind of guys in here. Cole Beasley. Cole Beasley had 82 receptions. Okay. And a quiet, consistent 82 receptions, right? Like I don't think we really appreciated Cole Beasley like we should have last year, just because of all the stuff that was going on, the antics and the COVID.
Yeah.
But he still had a really productive season.
And the admitted injury that he's now come out and said that he was playing with something in his, I think it was his ribs, right? That was bothering him or whatever, and he played through it. Yeah, I mean, he was still a very productive player for the Bills and a reliable player for the Bills. You knew he could go out there and play snaps and be available for Josh Allen, and Josh Allen had amazing chemistry with him. But now you're looking at that lineup there and saying who caught how many passes, and you lose a guy like Cole Beasley, you lose a guy, your number 2 wide receiver, what's his name? Oh my gosh, my brain tonight is not working. But you're left with a room now with Diggs as your number 1, and questioning who the number 2 is on the roster. Gabriel Davis certainly came on in the playoff game. One game does not a position make, right? Great. He has the talent. We've known that for a while. Can he do it consistently and be the number 2 guy over Emmanuel Sanders? Now it finally came to me here. Over losing Emmanuel Sanders, who we were all excited about seeing his role in this offense. The big signing for me that I love is Jamison Crowder, who comes in for Cole Beasley basically and can potentially improve that role. But he has to build the chemistry with Josh Allen to be able to do that. Isaiah McKenzie, I think he is what he is. We know what he is. He's a gadget guy. He can be there for a few plays and maybe once in his career have a 100-yard game versus the Patriots. That's fine with me, right? Or once in a season. Hey, whatever. That's good with me. But I don't think he's going to be getting more snaps or turning into that guy. And if you look deeper into the roster, with guys like Marquez Stevenson is one who I think, he started the season as a rookie on the IR, came back and was basically on punt return duties, and then, kind of lost that role as well. But there's still something to be had there about what we liked about him with his speed, and could he be the deep threat ability guy? And then you got Jake Kumro, what are they really doing with him? He's more of a special teams and reliable, 6th, 5th guy. Tanner Gentry, of course, Isaiah Hodgins. I mean, those guys are not going to be reliable on the roster. So there is a hole at wide receiver, at least for me, that number 2 guy. I'd rather be comfortable saying Gabriel Davis is 4 and he could potentially be 2. Let's bring in a rookie to compete with him.
You want Gabriel Davis as wide receiver 4? I
well,
think
if you're talking about the slot.
Upgrade. Yeah, I think he's an upgrade over Jamison Crowder.
Really? In the slot?
I think he can play in the slot. I think he's a big slot receiver.
I think they will test that out.
I think they're different, right? They don't bring the same skill set.
No.
But I think he could totally play in the slot as a big slot. But yeah, the question is, I mean, we hope and we want him to be wide receiver 2, but that's the thing right now. Can he fulfill that wide receiver 2? Now we know that he's a hell of a blocker, and we've seen him improve with his route running and separation ability. We witnessed that toward the middle and the end of the season. We saw those things, right? But taking on wide receiver 2, that's a big deal. That's a substantial bump. So he's gonna get, benefit is, you still got Stephon Diggs over there taking up, double coverage. You got Dawson Knox underneath, right? Jamison Crowder's gonna work in that. So it's not like you have to put all the responsibility and pressure on Gabriel Davis. But
and now, the other point we do have to make, we don't know now with a new offensive coordinator which direction they're going to go with personnel. They could run a lot more 12 personnel, and now they brought in a second tight end in OJ Howard, who could be in there a number of snaps however many times they run 12 over what they, 10 and 11 maybe, which means more wide receivers on the field versus 2 tight ends. Those 2 tight end sets are going to be exciting, right? If you have 2 pass catching tight ends out there who can also block, you don't know what's going to happen on that play. And you can really change things up. And I think the Bills will use that to their advantage this year.
Yeah.
OJ Howard's going to pick up some of that slack too.
I'd be hard pressed to think that, they're going to be 12 personnel base like just a lot of the time, but maybe
definitely not
10 to 15% of the
certainly
time.
More than they've done over the last 3 years.
But I think you should very much expect, 3 and 4 wide receiver sets, kind of reminiscent of last year, but can you get a running back that can make boxes lighter? So if we're going to look at wide receiver, I know I had to throw that in there.
Let's talk wide receiver first, Sterling.
So if we're talking draft, I mean, we know guys like, Jameson Williams, Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Drake London, Jahan Dotson. I mean, these guys, I think these guys are going to be gone by the time the Bills pick at 25. What are your thoughts on that? Do you think that there's going to be a viable wide receiver there at 25? I have a guy in mind that I think would be amazing, but I mean, I think the one that I think could be there, but I've been saying consistently I don't think he's going to be there, is Olave, right? And we've already talked about Jameson Williams. I mean, to me, he's the most explosive of these wide receivers. You already mentioned it, that he just plays it all every position. He plays all out, meaning he plays special teams. He plays on offense. Obviously, he could play in the slot. He can play as an outside receiver. And it's just fun, man. He is a baller. He is a baller when he's on the field, but he's going to be gone. I don't think there's any chance the Bills get him at this point. In terms of the other guys, there's things you can like about him and things you can dislike about him. Drake London, Garrett Wilson. I have notes on all of these guys, but I do think if you're asking me which one do I think they have the best shot of getting, I mean, Olave is probably going to be there. If he's there, I mean, he's most likely to be the one who's there at 25, and I would take him there, certainly. I don't think he's going to be there at 25.
I have Williams, Wilson, and Landon above him.
I don't think he's going to be there at 25. Now, there's some mock draft machines that consistently have him there at 25.
I know.
I don't think he makes it past the Eagles. I think he's gone. I think Jameson Crowder's gone to the Jets.
Oh, yeah.
So Garrett Wilson's going to be gone. I think Garrett Wilson could probably go to the Saints. I just don't see it. So if there's 2 targets that I believe that could be there. Okay. Jahan Dotson, household name. We all know who Jahan Dotson is, right? But there's another guy, Christian Watson, North Dakota State. I think height, weight, speed guy. He gives you something that you do not have. Okay. Now he's Gabriel Davis, but way more explosive. And I think he's good at high pointing the ball. He's a jump ball guy, right? Now I think his hands he needs refinement. He's definitely with his hands. And I would say, some of his route running needs to be refined, but an intriguing, like we were all about DK Metcalf. I'm not saying he's DK Metcalf.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, that's a high bar, but yeah.
But DK Metcalf is a height, weight, speed guy. Christian Watson is a height, weight, speed guy.
I like that.
And I'll go on to say this. I really do think that Christian Watson is going to be a better prospect than Drake London.
Really?
That's just what I think. That's just what I think.
I mean, I think I like your argument. I do, because I like what he brings to the table, height, weight, speed. Do you think he's a potential pick at 25, though? You're saying he could go in the first round?
Look, yeah,
in terms of the wide receivers, if there's definitely thinking wide receiver, I mean, I agree that I would take him over a Treylon Burks, right? Like, I'm not super high on Treylon Burks. I think he's got a good skill set. He could be taken in the first round. I have here, powerful and fast, but I don't think he's as dynamic as what I want for the Bills at wide receiver. And where I draw my line is Olave, meaning the 4 guys, Landon, Wilson, Williams, Olave, who I think all could be gone by the time the Bills pick, are the ones that I see as first round options without a doubt. I know that a lot of people have Dotson up there. I was not high on Dotson myself when I watched him and kind of put my analyzing goggles on, because a lot of his passes, he's wide open, and I'm thinking, okay, that's not going to happen in the NFL. And his route running. I don't like how he handles the ball. The way he catches the ball is just funny to me on tape. I don't like it. It's like, okay, you're going to get the ball knocked out a lot if you do that in the NFL. And the way he's kind of handling it, there's something about it that irked me. But he's not one of my favorite options, especially at 25. Burks, I mean, they could take him, but I don't know. And he's a bigger guy who can definitely rough up guys as after catch. But I don't know that he's a viable first round pick at 25. I would probably go with another option there. But after that, I mean, I would wait till the second, third, or maybe even the fourth round. Some of these later guys that I like.
Yeah. Okay. So Christian Watson's that dude. So let's keep it moving though. So that we're just covering round one talent. Okay, we're not going. Because we kind of over the past few weeks and month we kind of been talking about in depth, right? So this is kind of just getting us ready for next week.
And I think we could talk quick about like other guys that we've talked about. I mean, obviously I've talked about Romeo Dupes, who could be going in as early as 3, but more likely 4, I think. And Calvin Austin the third, another name I've seen that Bills fans have been in love with, maybe around the 3rd round. He's a speed guy, right? And certainly he flashed in the Senior Bowl and showed what he's capable of. And I like that. Certainly there is something to be said about the Bills need a guy like that who could be the speed guy. But then you're probably banking on Gabriel Davis definitely being your number 2. And for me, and what I think the Bills need more is somebody to compete on the outside with Gabriel Davis. And then, fill in the spots as needed. And I wouldn't be against taking 2 wide receivers, one in early and one later, to be honest. Who's another guy who I've seen? Tolbert is one who I've seen people picking a lot for the Bills in later rounds. I don't know why with that one, but he's another talent. Yeah, sure. He's got something he brings to the table, but not a guy that I am targeting or in love with when I do my mocks. And then Romeo Dubes obviously is one of my guys, but those are the only guys later, other than the ones we've already talked about, I think that I've been considering. So is there anybody else on your mind that was Bills related that I might have missed?
No. I think you hit the nail on the head there. So tight end. So in the tight end room, we got Dawson Knox, Tommy Sweeney, Quentin Morris, OJ Howard. I like the makeup of the tight end room. The problem is this. All right. I think Dawson Knox should be the priority to be re-signed.
Definitely.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I hope they keep him. I just think, him and Josh Allen, that rapport, I think it's important. But I understand that you're not going to be able to keep everybody. Right. So, but let's under the assumption that the Bills keep Dawson Knox. Right. And I loved OJ Howard coming out. Now he hasn't lived up to his potential. Don't know why. I didn't watch him closely in Tampa, but they had other guys down there, and you had Tom Brady coming in, and all that stuff, and he just kind of just wasn't. They already had a viable tight end option down there, and so he really hasn't lived up to what we all thought he would be coming out of Alabama. But he's a legit 6'6", can run, can block. I like what he's able to do down the seam. I mean, the game that he played in Buffalo, he wrecked us. I don't know if y'all remember that a few years ago, but OJ Howard wrecked us his rookie season. Yeah. He was balling out. So I like his game, man. And I like the fact that, with Dawson Knox, if you want to do those 12 personnel groupings, you got a guy like OJ Howard. I think that's icing on the cake, man. And I think he's excellent. When it comes to what he does in run blocking, I think that's going to help as well. So when Aaron Cromer, working with offensive line, I think it's going to pay dividends. So they're going to be very much so. Their ability to be multiple, and what they roll out there in their schemes and those kind of things to get some matchup nightmare problems for these defenses, right?
And the biggest problem that you mentioned was the fact that tight end is a position where come next year, we actually have like no tight ends on the roster at that point, right? Because Dawson Knox is, scheduled to be a free agent and OJ Howard is only under a 1-year deal. So it's tough not thinking about needing to bring in another tight end that you like. Although we have a guy like Tommy Sweeney on the roster, he did not prove to be reliable in the few options he was given. in the pass game at least, and might be more of somebody who's a block person, blocking tight end. And then one of my favorite guys on the roster, Reggie Gilliam, but really he's a fullback who can also catch the ball.
He's
right?
an
Let's be
H-back.
serious. They
He's
list
an
him as
H-back.
tight end, but he's a fullback who can happen to also catch the ball sometimes in emergency situation.
Right.
And so there's definitely a need for right now a tight end 3, but also, at least an upgrade ability at tight end 3 with Tommy Sweeney, but also thinking long-term, who's going to be there next year if worst case scenario, we can't extend Dawson Knox and we don't have an OJ Howard under contract anymore. You're definitely going to want to have somebody on the roster who can learn under them, have a year in the system before moving into next year.
So in terms of draftable tight ends, Trey McBride is out of Colorado State. He's number 1, and then you have a bunch of other guys. There's I think Trey McBride and what he's able to do in running routes and setting up defenders. He can block. He played at Colorado State, so he doesn't get a lot of the shine.
Right.
But he's a damn good tight end.
Yeah.
He's not better than Dawson Knox. I mean,
right.
I know that. Now, he's a better prospect coming out just because Dawson Knox didn't have a lot of time on task. But I don't think his upside, his ceiling is where Dawson Knox is at. But Trey McBride is another guy. I think his value is probably going to go in the 2nd round. Okay. Some other guys that probably
you think he's going in the 2nd? I mean, that
second
would be
to 3rd round. Yeah,
exactly.
I
was thinking early 3rd would be the first tight end taken off the board. I think it will be Trey McBride. I really like McBride, actually. I do. I wrote in my notes. It's funny you brought up Knox. I wrote he's Knox with good hands, right? When Knox was drafted, it was, he had drop C's problems. I don't see that with Trey McBride. Now, he's not going to come in day 1 and be better than Knox by any means, but he can learn under Knox. And because he has a similar playing ability, at least that's what I see when I watch him, he's certainly a guy that I would target at tight end in this draft, which is not saying much. There's not a lot of guys I would target at tight end, but McBride would be one, and I would love to take him early in round 3. Might have to trade up in round 3 to get him, or if you end up trading down at one of the other spots, there's certainly options there. Yeah,
and I'll go out and say this. It's very hot takey, but I do expect the Bills to trade up in the 2nd or 3rd round. I just think it's going to happen. They're going to trade up. I just have that feeling, man. And people are going to hate on it, but I don't care. I just think, that's what's going to happen. But I think some other notable names that you can look at: Isaiah Likely, Coastal Carolina. I think, one of the guys that I really like out of Maryland that people really aren't talking about is Chigozie Okonkwo out of Maryland. Just because I watch a lot of Big Ten football. I mean, this guy's he's a really good athlete. He's 6'2", and I know that the Bills kind of like bigger tight ends around the 6'4" to 6'6" range, right? So if you're looking at that, the big freak of nature guys, Jelani Woods is a guy that you could look at and go, he fits the bill. Jeremy Ruckert, and probably you want to look at Charlie Kohler, late, 3rd, 4th round. I think your run on tight ends is probably going to start in the 3rd round, right? So you can see from 3rd to 5th is a sweet spot for a tight end, is what it's looking at. So
I mean, you brought up some names that I definitely had on my list, Jelani Woods being one of them for sure, because he is that dynamic big guy, athletic. Isaiah Likely, again, I think he's super athletic. He's got the talent, but he's so hard to evaluate because of where he played, Coastal Carolina versus one of these big schools.
Right.
He was clearly the biggest and best athlete on the field when he played, and any film you watch of him, which makes him tough to evaluate, but his skill set, pretty undeniable that he's physically capable of playing that position. One other guy that you didn't mention who I like is Cade Otton. He was Washington, right? When I watched his tape, I got excited again, because what do I see when I watch him? He's consistent. He's big. He's reliable. He's a tight end. He looks like a tight end. He's big. He's reliable with his hands, and he is a leader on the field. When I watched him on tape, it's just like you see where he is, and he makes a play, and you can tell, he is one of the leaders on that team. And I think that knowing McDermott and Bean, that is a trait that they like to see in players, right? Who is the guys with leadership capabilities, with the right attitude on the field, the ability to communicate with teammates. And he's definitely
guys that fit the culture. I think it's important for them.
And he's much later. Yeah, we're talking about a pretty good drop off. Yeah, I mean, I would be happy with any of those guys, I think, in their appropriate spaces, probably in that order. McBride, likely Onton, and Jelani Woods, probably in the 3 to 5 range, 3, 4, 5. I would probably take them.
Yeah. So okay, so now we got the tight ends out of the way, man. All right, so what we're about to do, and Anthony is gonna have a damn conniption fit. Oh, here's Elishar says, what's our opinion on Skyy Moore? I like Skyy Moore, Western Michigan guy. He can fly. I mean, this guy, you talk about consistency, man. He brings it to the table. He's really good with his hands, really good route runner. I just think he doesn't get a lot of burn because he's from Western Michigan.
Yeah.
He's getting slept on, but I think he's one of those guys that can come in and produce early. We're seeing wide receivers more and more being able to come in and give you solid contributions early on day one. And I think, he has a time on task. And I really do like him as a route runner. He's small, so that's a knock on him that he's small, but he plays a lot bigger. It kind of reminds me of Steve Smith, so I'm not saying he's Steve Smith.
No, that's a huge comparison, but
play style.
Yes.
Says a guy
size wise and what he can do.
I
like that comparison. I mean, I do think that he's more of a slot wide receiver than a number 2 guy, which is why I didn't bring him up in our initial conversation. Because as I said earlier, I'm looking more for somebody to compete at the number 2 slot position rather than in the slot with Jamison Crowder. But you do still need to plan long-term, just like I was talking about with tight end, at wide receiver for the slot position too, because you only have Jamison Crowder for a year. So there's a lot to be said with that too. I would love it if they end up getting a Skyy Moore. Where would you take him would probably be the question for me.
I think he goes third round. I think he goes late third as well. Second, third round.
I do think he's more of a third round guy, but somebody might take him in 2. You never know.
You just never know. Draft boards do not look. For every team, they're different, and every team based on scheme and so forth, personnel, they have different values on these guys. So it's all over the board. So that's why every year we see guys that are taken in round 1, Alex Leatherwood. You're like, what'd you do that for, Raiders? But and he's trash. But you see guys taken that you think, oh yeah, he's a third round guy, and they're early second or late first. It happens all the time, So a lot of times, what draft analysts say and what actual teams really think and feel, those things are different. And you can't draft in a vacuum. I mean, it's just you have to. That's what makes the draft so awesome, is that you just don't freaking know at all. So let's get into these running backs. So the running back position as a whole last year sucked. To me, I just wanted more out of the position. Devin Singletary came on late. I think the Bills did him a disservice, not knowing what they were doing in offensive line, and not, I think the position of running back is very much a position of rhythm. I think you need to have rhythm, and when you don't have a plan, it seems, at running back or an offensive line, you got all these, offensive line combinations you're not sure about. God, I hope that they have a solid 5 going in and they stick to it. Barring injury, just fucking stick to the damn plan, okay? Devin Singletary, I even have the man's jersey. I love Devin Singletary, but man, he's slow. But he's shifty in a phone booth, and he came on late when the Bills absolutely needed him. He was a breath of fresh air, being able to kind of show us what he's like, like his rookie season when he was averaging about 5 yards a carry. He was kind of balling out, so I do want more at the position. Okay. Zach Moss, get out of here. I don't care. Sorry, buddy. I appreciate you, but it's just not. Matt Breida, bye. Like, Matt Breida signed somewhere already with the Giants. All right.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
For me, the running back position is it upgradable? Absolutely, right? This is not a strength of the Buffalo Bills. But my argument always with running back when you have Josh Allen is, who cares? I don't care. We need wide receiver. We need tight end. We need offensive line. We do not need running back. There is no need at running back. I don't care what anybody says. If we walk into the season with Singletary, Moss, and Duke Johnson, we are better than last year in my mind with Duke Johnson as a pass catching option and change of pace kind of guy. I guess he was, starting at games this past season for Miami. So good option to have on the roster. Is he an upgrade? Certainly. I think so, over Breida and what we had. Moss, it does seem like they're kind of trying to move on from him after making him inactive for 3 weeks at the end of the season. That to me was the biggest sign that they're like, okay, we've made our decision on what you're capable of and where we stand with you. So are they looking to draft one? Who knows? But do they need to draft one? Absolutely not, in my mind. There's no need to become more running back friendly. There's no need. If you upgrade the offensive line, you immediately upgrade the running back, right? You've given the running back better holes. I don't care if it's Joe Schmo running the ball. He can do better because of the better offensive line.
Wow.
Right? They will do better automatically. And the position on this Bills team does not need to be one of star power. It needs to be one of mediocrity. You just need to do your job. And Singletary at the end of the year proved to be able to do that. When the offensive line was more consistently playing well, Singletary played his best. So that is promising coming into this season. Now, will they settle for that? No. Is it upgradable? Absolutely still yes. But I just don't see it as a definite need on this team.
I know you hate running backs, man. And whatever running back.
Josh Allen's on this team. What are you going to do with running backs? What are you going to do?
Josh Allen does not need to be running the ball all the time. I'm sorry.
Who cares? Let him pass it, throw it, whatever. He's going to be Josh Allen. No matter who you bring in running back, Josh Allen's still going to be Josh Allen.
You seen Cam Newton lately?
Yeah, but that's not going to stop Josh Allen from doing what he does. Now, do I want him to run less?
I didn't say.
Do I want to have the best running back in the world? Yes. Is that going to be possible on this team? No.
Listen, let me tell you, man. Josh Allen will always run the ball, right?
Yes.
But the problem is you need a short yardage guy like that a defensive
you don't
coordinator.
Think Johnson is an upgrade for that?
He ain't even gonna make the damn team.
You don't think
he's even gonna make the damn team? Duke Johnson, get out of here. Listen, dog, I know you believe that anybody can go from Wegmans. You can pull a dude that's pushing carts and you play running back. It doesn't work that way.
It does. It does. It does. This is the NFL. It absolutely does.
Anthony, I love you to death, but no, it doesn't work that way. So I think the Bills could use a threat, like a legitimate threat with Devin Singletary. A legitimate threat.
You would make the team better. Yes, that's what I'm saying. It's upgradable, certainly. I will not argue that.
Whether you want to argue, the Bills, it's been rumored that the Bills have been there. They've gotten guys on visits and they've been looking at these running back prospects. And they very well could take a running back in round 1. Now, you got to go back to what Brandon Beane said earlier in the offseason, man. He wants to protect Josh Allen at all costs. I think this is part of it. You're saving Josh Allen from himself, from having to run, feeling like he has to run the ball all the time. It just makes what Josh Allen's able to do even more special. But if you get a guy that when you have light boxes in those too high shells, you got a guy that can get you yardage. And Devin Singletary could not do that last year. They were terrible. You goddamn Zach Moss, a hole is right here, and he's running into somebody.
Yes, Zach Moss clearly had issues, and they gave up on him. That's why I think he's done on this team. Yeah,
so,
I do think.
Don't even mention what's his name? Duke Johnson ever again. He's not in the equation.
He's an upgrade. Sorry. Yes, he
get the F out of here. Duke Johnson ain't shit.
But
so let's talk about running backs in round
because
1.
I think that's now you said maybe running back could be taken in round 1, right? And my problem there is in this draft class, this particular class, there is not a running back that I personally think should be taken in round 1.
Wow.
I do not think talent-wise there is a round 1 running back here, and we'll go through what my notes are on each one of these guys and which ones I like more than the other or whatever, because the top 3 names are the ones that are being floated around most often, but there are some later guys as well that we can talk about. But those top 3, they all have questions, they all have holes, and I don't think that upgrades your team as much as other positions of need would at 25.
So that's why I don't think. So you're talking about Isaiah Spiller, Breece Hall, and Kenneth Walker.
Yes.
In my opinion, my humble opinion, I think that Kenneth Walker is the best running back of the 3. Now, you could talk to different guys, and they're going to tell you Breece Hall's number 1, and some guys are going to tell you that Isaiah Spiller's number 1. I like Kenneth Walker for my own reasons, and I know he's a Michigan State guy, so I'm
your rival, right? That's big on you, man.
But he got a great story, great character, and what he's able to do on the field, man. I love the fact the way he sets up blockers and the way he can cut. and just,
Oh,
in open space, man. I just love, he's
yes.
not a pass blocker. He has to
No,
learn how to do that, but
exactly.
he offers you some other things, and I think he has a second gear that
Mhm.
is underrated.
Yes, and I think that's part of what I agree. Kenneth Walker is, I would say it this way. He's my favorite running back, but he's not my number one for the Bills. And the reason is because he absolutely sucks at pass protection. So if a running back, that's a very important thing, and he sucks at it. Now, we have a new offensive line coach. We've got new coaches in there. Maybe they feel they could teach him this skill. I don't know how teachable that is. I don't know how teachable a player he is, but I can guarantee you that the Buffalo Bills do. They've done their homework. They know exactly what Kenneth Walker is like, if he's coachable and if they can coach him to be better in pass protection. Because if they can do that, I am agreeing with you that Kenneth Walker is the number one running back for the Bills and the number one in this draft. What he can do on the field, his footwork, is foot and hips with his first step. When there's a guy right in front of him, he breaks ankles. I mean, it's absolutely sickening what he can do. And it's awesome to watch on tape because he does it every play. He's just all of a sudden he has stop
He's
and
shifty.
start ability. He
Brees
has
Hall's a
great
baller,
shifty feet.
and he's fast as hell. Like, you talk about
Walker or
second
Brees Hall,
gear.
you talking? I
Oh,
was talking about Walker's
oh,
first
okay,
gear.
okay. I thought you were talking
Ability.
about. I thought you were talking about Brees
Now,
Hall.
the only reason I have Brees Hall as my number one for the Bills is because he is good at pass protection and he's still a good running back. There's still questions there. To me, is he an upgrade over Devin Singletary? On tape, he looks like a little bit faster Devin Singletary, right? A little bit better vision Devin Singletary, but we need something more upgradable than that. I think Kenneth Walker's running ability is better, but Brees Hall would be more valuable to the Bills because he's better all around in terms of what he can do, in open space and in the blocking game, which again, for me and for the Bills over the last few years, that's been more important. Zach Moss and Devin Singletary are great at pass protection. And that is why, they've been okay targets and consistent for the Bills over the last two seasons. From there, the running game is upgradable, and both of those guys, I think, would be the potential. But I would put it in order for the Bills, Brees Hall and then Kenneth Walker, only for that reason, unless they decide they can coach him up. Then take Kenneth Walker all day, please.
Yeah. What about Isaiah Spiller?
Spiller is so what I wrote down for him when I watched his tape and people, I wrote meh. Not overly exciting to watch. Good speed, elusive, bad ball control. And I think that's the killer, right? Like it's just, I mean, I like his speed. I like his, but it's just not as exciting. And especially comparing
Eh,
him to Kenneth Walker and Brees Hall. I mean, those guys, you can say, I want that guy on my team. Spiller, I see that and I'm like, okay, he's good enough
Of
to play in the NFL. Is he a
of the three,
superstar? Is he going to be an upgrade? I don't know.
I
Too
think
many questions to put him on the list.
Spiller's the safest bet of the three. Safest. I didn't say has the
Sure.
highest ceiling.
Consistently,
Right?
yes. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Right?
Mac Jones was the most safest quarterback last year, but he certainly wasn't the highest ceiling.
I think, any three of these backs, they can handle light boxes, right?
Yes.
Brees gives you some ability to catch the ball, major ability to catch the ball. I think he's a really, really good receiver out of the backfield. I think, Spillers excels in pass protection. He knows his assignment pre-snap. He knows what he's looking for. And I think, I really do like the ability, the vision of Kenneth Walker and what he's able to do there. So, that's kind of, I don't know what the Bills are going to do. I mean, I really, it's crazy because last year we thought, we kind of knew what the Bills were thinking. We all wanted cornerback. We wanted wide receiver. We wanted a lot of other things, kind of the same, issue going into this year. And what did Brandon Beane do? He took two defensive ends, rounds 1 and 2. Bang, bang.
Yep.
I don't know what the Bills are going to do this year. I think cornerback might be put to bed. I mean, like, do they really think they have a need at corner? I mean, because they haven't brought anybody in. You think that they would bring in a veteran cornerback?
I think they will. I still think they will. I still absolutely think 100% they will. I don't care what happens. Even if they draft two corners, I still think they will find a veteran corner to bring in and compete. Whether that's paying somebody $1 million who's at the bottom of the list, but, is a guy to bring in who knows what he's doing and can teach those guys. I still think the Bills do sign a veteran corner at some point. They will. It might not be a starting level. It depends on what happens in the draft. But even if they draft 2 corners, I still think they sign a veteran. Now, what does that mean? Where were you going with that for running back versus cornerback in the first round? You're saying there's not going to be a cornerback in the first round, so they should go running back?
Just like the wide receivers, I think, the corners, their first round, I think Kaiir Elam will be there. All right, so if you like Kaiir Elam, but, and then you can get probably, one of these Washington guys, here, I'll show you here. So if I looking at cornerback, man, I really do think, Kyler Gordon will be there at 25, but that's not a fan. Okay. And Kaiir Elam. Those are and I think all the other guys, now Tariq Woolen, third round guy to me, late second, third round guy, Alontae Taylor, Cam Taylor-Britt. I mean, we don't know. We don't know, right? He could be totally a second round guy. I'm just throwing it out there, but I just don't, as much as we want to say, oh yeah, cornerback at 25. Okay, well, Andrew Booth. Andrew Booth would have to slip because of injury concerns.
Yes.
Sauce is going in the top 10. Derek Stingley is going in the top 10.
He's gone. Yeah.
Trent McDuffie's going between 10 and 20. Roger McCreary could even have his name called on round 1. So I mean, and I don't think.
But then you're looking at offensive linemen who have fallen. You're looking at other positions that have fallen.
It's just
there's too much value at 25 for me to think about running back at 25. Somebody, if even if the scenario you're saying falls, all the cornerbacks are taken, all the wide receivers are taken. Well, guess what? All the offensive linemen cannot therefore also be taken. There's only 24 names called ahead of us. So I think there will be somebody there to consider. There's plenty of talent that I like over running back. And when I say that, it's not like I'm saying Breece Hall should go in the 5th round. No, I think Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, and Spiller all go in round 2, and probably mid to early round 2. At least the first one will, and then we'll see where the others fall. But
so
I think those guys are all 2nd round prospects, and that's where they belong.
I have 16 first round grades. 16. That's how many I've given out. So I think this draft, it doesn't have like the great top end talent, right? I think you have they're good, but they're not great, right? And then you got a bunch of depth this year, right? I think there's depth to be found. I think it's a really deep draft, but it's not a lot of top end talent. Okay. So I got 16 grades in the first round, so we'll see, right? But that's just, again, I'm just a dude. I only, and there's people who do this for a living with these NFL teams, and they get paid lots of money, right?
Yeah. So
it's a crapshoot because you don't know what these guys are going to be like when you draft them, right? You have an idea, but life happens, stuff happens. It's what makes it so.
Remember the days when the Bills were picking running backs super high? I mean,
CJ Spiller
back to back.
We just want a water bug. That's what he said. Like, what the man? What a water? You take your country bumpkin ass. Get the hell out of here, man, with your old ass. Like, get the.
And now
I love Spiller. I love Spiller because I love my running backs. But I was like, yo, we got Fred Jackson and Marshawn Lynch. Why the hell?
Lynch, Spiller. I mean,
take the pass rusher.
Lots of running backs for the Bills in the past, and now not just the Bills, but all around the league, the value of running back has fallen, and there are running backs later to be had. Given that some of the best, most of the best running backs in the league are taken now in rounds 2 and or 3 at this point, so there is a sweet spot for running back, and I do think that these guys can potentially fall into that category. But none of them are exciting to warrant comparisons to maybe Jonathan Taylor or J.K. Dobbins or some of these guys that we have evaluated over the years as we've done our draft analysis on this show, right? Those are guys I've always been.
Right.
Last year, I did not agree at all that running back could be taken in the first round by the Bills, and I made the case for it in one of the episodes. Same thing this year. It's all about the talent there. Those guys were better than these guys in my mind, and I didn't take them till round 2. Now I'm thinking, okay, it's safe to take these guys in round 2, but they aren't even as good as the guys last year. Yeah. So it's tough.
Well, it's interesting, man. So we're running out of time here tonight. We're going to keep it locked and loaded here, man. The draft is next week, dude. And the sleepless nights will continue until we get to that day. And I'm telling you what, man, on Thursday, I'm going to be dude. It's going to be wild. I don't even know. Draft day is Christmas for me, man. But make sure you keep it locked here on the Cover One Network. thank you guys for listening to the Hoof Podcast live. Look, we will draft a franchise caliber Kevin Cobb. Man, look at Buddy Nick's old ass. Look at him, dude.
It's fun to joke about now, isn't
Bruh,
it?
bruh.
It's easy to joke about now, but man, was he fun to listen to? Right?
Dude, it was
now,
a
let
joke.
me tell you here now, we're going to take
It's
this.
a joke. We were just a joke. It's like somebody get grandpa and fucking put him to sleep. But anyway, man. Listen, it's been real, man. I appreciate all you guys.
Yeah.
I appreciate all you guys listening, though. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe to the Hoof Podcast and the Cover One Network. And with that being said, man, we are out of here tonight. You guys enjoy your week and stay safe. Go Bills.
Go Bills.